Morning, Graham from ArionGames here again, and another video talking about Advanced Fighting Fantasy today. So today's one is going to be about what's coming up in the pipeline. Now I've got plenty of projects on, there's plenty of things to do, so things aren't moving quite as fast as I'd hoped, especially with this virus situation, but we're getting there. And I do have 4 projects that I'm working on, and I'm hoping that all 4 will be more or less complete by the end of this year. So the first of these is to get the Atlantis campaign finished. There are 5 parts done already, so it's halfway through. There are 5 to write. Now these are all planned out. These are all they're all there in principle. They just need to be actually written. So this obviously just requires me to sit down and do the typing, do the layout, do the release, and shouldn't be a major problem. I just need to find the time to do that. Now, once those remaining 5 are done, then they can be compiled into one big book with the first 5. So you've got the full 10-part Atlantis campaign. And that, I think, is going to be pretty good. I'm quite excited about that. I just need to crack on with writing that. So the second of my projects is the Advanced Fighting Fantasy Solo Adventurer's Guide. Now, this has been in planning for quite a while, and there's another of the authors I work with, Dan, who is sort of taking the lead on this at the moment. This is going to be quite an interesting one because it's going to allow you to generate your own adventures. It's going to allow you to run through them without a director, without a GM. Now, I know that there are various other products in the market that help you do this. Effectively, what this is going to be is sort of a game book creator. So it's going to have ideas on how to create encounters, and of course you've got a particular problem with things like AFF. So in the Warlock of Firetop Mountain you find a whole load of keys, but only some of them unlock the chest at the end. Now, how do you incorporate that into a solo generator? If you roll and it says there's a key, how do you know whether it's a key you need or a key you don't need? So that, of course, has to be incorporated into the design, and it will be, and there will be sort of standardized encounters in there, and there will be standardized locations and so on and so forth. So it's going to bring together things like the drop the dice creation methods for cities, for towns, for wilderness and for dungeons, but it's also going to have a whole load of tools, tables, and so on, to allow you to create your own adventure that you can run through. There will also, of course, be guidelines on running through an existing pre-written adventure using AFF but without GM. So that is going backwards and forwards. That's in development because that is relatively complicated to write. Effectively, we're having to write a whole new game around that. Obviously, we're not writing the basic game mechanics, they're written, but we're having to write a whole new set of systems in order to generate all of that. So that will take a little bit of time, but it's coming on nicely, albeit slowly, and I'm hoping that once all of the systems are worked out, the actual writing shouldn't take too long. Now, the third project I'm working on is the Advanced Fighting Fantasy Combat Companion. So this is going to do 2 things. Firstly, it's going to provide sort of, if you like, an update almost to AFF. So certain rules like the dodging rule. So in the original game, in order to dodge in combat, you had to have the swashbuckler talent. When we got Stellar Event, by the time I got Stellar Adventure, I'd realised actually that was not the best idea. It would be much better to have anyone can dodge, but the swashbuckler talent adds a bonus. So that's where we went with Stellar Adventures. And so that is going to be incorporated, if you like, as an official house rule into AFF in the Combat Companion. And there are various other bits and pieces like fixed target number for missile attacks, etc., etc. So they're all going to be put into there as official house rules, or official alternative rules. But what it's also going to have is it's going to have some rules for modifying creatures, so templates for creatures. And I know various other games have done this. So you might have a chieftain orc. So That way you can open up out of the pit, you can take the orc stat, you can apply the chieftain overlay, and you have a chieftain orc. Of course, what you can also do is apply the chieftain and shaman. So you can have a chief shaman orc, or you could apply the champion. So you could have a champion chief orc, or just a champion orc, or whatever. So you can build these different layers on that apply special abilities, that apply bonuses to skill and stamina and armor and weapons, so that a director can open up out of the pit, beyond the pit, return to the pit, and say, actually, we're going to have this type as a leader, or whatever. There's also going to be various other combat related options, such as different combat actions. So you've already got sort of the all-out attack and so on, so there's going to be a few more of those, probably a few more combat related talents, possibly skills, some new weapons and armors, and so on. So other things to improve the lot of the humble fighter, because if you're a wizard in AFF, you've got all sorts of funky spells, and as you get better and better, you can do more and more potent things. If you're a priest, you get more powerful with your abilities. If you're a sorcerer, etc. If you're a humble fighter, you just get a few more skill, you get a few more special skill. There's not much else you can do. Of course, you can buy talents, but you know, you're relatively limited. So this is to provide some options for the humble fighter and just to give combat a little bit more interest. Things like critical hit tables and so on. And the fourth of the project I'm going to be a little bit cagey about, but it's another travels in monologue. So the city guide I wrote for the city of Arion, which was for the Atlantis campaign, sort of, was written as a travel diary written by an explorer. And I've had really good feedback that it's a good read, and it's informative in a way that a more factual book might not be. So I've got another one of those planned, which is also tied into something else that will be later on. So that is relatively low down my priority list. That's at the bottom of my priority list. I am going to be working on that here and there. Now, it's also worth noting that Andrew Wright, who's written Beyond the Pit, Return to the Pit, Titan Herbal, has, I think, about 3 other projects on the go at various stages of completion, because you just can't stop him writing, which of course is a very good thing. He has 3 projects on the go. I'm not going to talk about those today, but we also have various other bits and pieces on the go from other people. Again, I'm not going to talk about those because I want those to be a little closer to fruition before I do. But it's going to be a busy year. There is a lot to be done. And hopefully what this will do is it will round out Advanced Fighting Fantasy a little bit. The Atlantis campaign will give you another full, long campaign. The solo guide will give you another way to enjoy AFF. And the combat companion will round out your existing games, and the Travels In will give you another setting. So I think the only thing missing from that are some shorter adventures. But again, that may or may not happen in the meantime. So until next time, happy gaming, and I'm going to get back to work.